I know that I am so late in releasing another podcast episode. If you listened to my last one, you know that I am in a new relationship. And so I've been busy with that. It's been a bit of a whirlwind the last 6 weeks. Um, Last week, I spent all last week in Florida. And then I helped move her to Michigan. And so it's just been a lot. But like, in the best possible way, I have been really enjoying this part of the human experience. Um, and like after the last year of doing so much soul work, I finally feel like I get to land things in my body. It's been so amazing. I've really been enjoying it. But because I talk about everything that's happening in my experience, what's been really interesting about this is that it's the first relationship that I have been in where I am showing up fully aware and fully conscious. And the biggest piece of awareness that I am bringing into this relationship now is that relationships are mirrors. And like we hear this all the time in relational spaces, but to actually take the concept and apply it to your relationship, I think a lot of people miss the mark on that. So that's what I've been trying to do, which means every single uncomfortable feeling I have, I know is a reflection of something within me, whether that's a value or an unhealed belief or something. And so being in that place and coming into this relationship from that place, I have noticed something very clearly. Relationships are not hard. What is hard is staying with yourself when something gets activated because of the relationship. Like when I think about my relationship right now, our relationship is really fucking easy. Like being together is easy and it's natural. We have so many things in common. We, have a lot of the same perspectives. Like the relationship itself being together is easy. But the moments where something comes up, and whether that's in me or in her, because we openly discuss about every single fucking thing that comes up, we talk about it. The moment things come up, that's when it gets hard. And what's interesting is that that is kind of the exact opposite of what we've been taught. We've been taught that the relationship is the hard work. But what I actually think is that idea that the relationship is hard work is what is making them feel hard. So let me explain. We have been taught this idea that relationships are hard work, and it's just something that has been accepted as truth. Like nobody really questions it. Everybody is just like, yeah, of course, relationships are hard work. And I get why. One, because we are told, um, because we're told like imagine being at a wedding and when two people get married, there's always some old couple in the audience or in, the service that is like, relationships are hard. You have to put in the work, right? And our parents tell us this and church tells us this, relationship spaces, couples counseling, all of those things. One, that's what we're told. Two, when you're in a relationship, obviously things come up, right? There's emotions and there's conflict and there's differences in perspectives and differences in preferences and beliefs and values. And so, in order to resolve this, we learn to communicate and we learn to speak each other's love language and to compromise because we're told relationships are hard work. But what I've started to see is that the phrase doesn't just describe relationships, it actually shapes how we show up in them. So I'm going to break this down very simply. When you believe that something is supposed to be hard, you start treating it like something that needs work. So just imagine that you're starting a new job and you believe like it's a little bit over your head. Like you're not sure if you're fully qualified for it. And so you start overthinking everything that you do. You start double checking your work constantly. Maybe you're trying to make sure that you don't mess up, or maybe you even overperform or overwork so that you can prove yourself. And I think from the outside, it just looks like you're working really hard. But what's actually driving that, the thing underneath, is the belief that you're not good enough at the job. And so then the entire experience becomes stressful. And it's not stressful because of the job, it's stressful because of how you're showing up to it. And I'm starting to realize that relationships work the exact same way. If you believe relationships are hard work, you show up to your relationships like they need to be managed. And we hear this all the time, especially in couples counseling. People will say, we're going to counseling, we need to work on a relationship, right? Our relationship needs work, or let's go to counseling because our relationship needs work. So then what do? We practice communication, we learn our partner's needs, and we try to prioritize their needs, and we use I feel statements to communicate our feelings, and we try to show up in the right way. And I'm not saying that any of those things are bad. Like, all of those things are a part of healthy relationships, but we never look at what is driving it, because a lot of the time the effort we're putting into our relationships is not actually coming from a grounded place. It's coming from trying to keep the relationship okay, trying to avoid conflict, trying to make sure the other person doesn't pull away. And so then you start to think about, like, how to say things the right way. You start managing them. You start trying to keep the peace. You start trying to make sure that they're okay. You try to fix things when things feel off. And all of that, it's all efforting. It all feels like effort. It feels like you're working on the relationship. But that effort is what makes it feel hard. So now you're in this loop where it feels hard, so you try harder, and it keeps feeling hard, so you try harder. And even as I'm thinking about this, as I say it, I've done a lot of couples counseling with many different partners. And I remember getting so frustrated because I was doing everything I was supposed to do. I was communicating well. I was using the tools. I was using the I feel statements. I was trying to understand them and their perspective, putting myself in their shoes. I was trying to meet them where they are. And yet, the relationship still felt hard. Like it still felt like work. It didn't feel easy or natural. And I couldn't understand why, because I was like, I am doing absolutely everything right. I am following all the rules, everything they tell me in these relationship spaces that I should be doing. I'm doing all of it. Why does the relationship still feel hard? But what I see now is that none of that work, none of that efforting was actually changing the thing underneath that was driving it. My orientation was still external. I was getting activated in the relationship. And instead of staying with myself through the activation, I was trying to feel okay through the relationship. So all of those tools that I was using, they weren't creating space. They were helping me manage the experience. And that is a very different thing, because I thought, if it feels hard, it means it must mean that I care. Like, if it's work, it means that I'm doing it right. And so I stayed in relationships longer than I should have stayed, because I was told relationships are hard work, and because I was putting in that hard work, and it was creating more hard work. So I stayed when things fell off. I stayed when the dynamics didn't feel natural. I stayed while I was constantly trying to make it work, not because that person was right for me, but because I believed it was supposed to feel that way. Relationships are supposed to be hard work. Because when you've been taught that if it feels hard, it means you're doing it right, that's what you're going to experience. So then you never question it. In fact, you double down, you support it. You're like, oh, nope, this is what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be hard. So you try harder and you give more and you adjust more. And then you're just in this never ending fucking loop. But then there's the flip side of that, right? Like when something does feel easy, there's almost a part of you that doesn't trust it. Like, well, this can't be it. It's too easy. I thought relationships are supposed to be hard. Um, but what I'm seeing in all of my experience, and especially because of the relationship that I'm in right now, um, it's not the relationship that is hard. It's everything that we're doing to try to manage how the relationship feels. So, what is actually happening in those moments of activation? Because this is the part that really changed everything for me. Again, it's not the relationship that's hard, it's what gets activated inside of you while you're in the relationship. So, I'm going to give you a very simple example from my relationship, from my experience. There are moments where my girlfriend will say something to me like, "You're so beautiful." And she is speaking specifically about my physical appearance. Like, if she were speaking directly about my soul, like my heart was beautiful, my character, my personality, all of those things, I would be okay. I would totally agree with her. I'd be like, "Yep, she's, that makes sense. That aligns with the way I perceive myself." But she's not speaking from there. She is speaking directly to my physical attractiveness. And I can feel how incredibly uncomfortable that makes me. Not because she's doing anything wrong, it's because it challenges how I see myself. I didn't grow up believing any of that about myself. I didn't grow up believing that I was, an attractive person. And so while I have done a lot of work to accept who I am and love who I am, I'm still getting activated when she says those things, which means I haven't truly shifted those internal beliefs. And so, in those moments, when I feel that discomfort, I also feel a pull to do something about it, to either minimize it, to deflect it, or to like move away from that feeling of discomfort. But because I'm showing up conscious, I know I'm not supposed to. I'm supposed to accept that she has an experience of me that is different than my own self concept or my experience of me. So that means that I have to sit with the discomfort and I have to tell myself that she's allowed to have this experience and it can be different from your experience. Like, I feel like we all have versions of this, moments where like something appears to be good that's happening, like something good is happening, but it's not fully landing in the body and it makes us uncomfortable. And like, this is how we find out our insecurities and all of those things. But it's just so interesting to be aware of that. Um, and then there's another side of this. There have been moments where she has these big feelings, and like, to be fair, she's moved through a lot over the last few weeks. Like, she just packed up and moved her whole life from Florida to Michigan. So that's, a new place to live, a new job, and all of, leaving her friends and all of the things. And so she will share how she feels about the experience. Like, she'll share frustrations of how cold it is, or that she feels sad, or that she doesn't have any friends yet. And I mean, all of that makes sense. They're all perfectly valid feelings to have. So the first thing I noticed in myself whenever she would share these types of feelings was this immediate urge to soothe her, to like try to comfort her and make her feel better and make her feel okay. And like, I did that many times, many, many times. But I started to notice Every single time she's shared something like that, the urge was there. Like this pull to soothe her was there. And so that's when I started to get curious because on the surface, that pull, like it looks like I'm just being supportive. It looks like I'm just showing up for my girlfriend who just moved, who's going through all these changes, and I'm just being the supportive partner. But when I really slowed it down and I really started to like examine that internal pull, I realized that it wasn't actually about that. It was about the fear of losing connection. And what's even more interesting is how my mind was interpreting what she was saying. The moment she shared displeasure about being here, and I mean, she's here because she moved to be with me, right? But it's like my nervous system goes straight to all or nothing thinking. And like, even though I've done so much work to be able to hold multiple truths at the same time, in that moment, it's like in that moment, I forget. Like, I don't hear she's having a hard moment. I hear this isn't working. She's not okay here. Something is wrong. She might leave. And she's not actually saying any of that, but my system filters it like she is. And so then the urge to soothe her makes even more sense because now I'm not just responding to her, I'm trying to stabilize a connection, even though the connection was never threatened. And so that's exactly what I was talking about earlier. This is what turns into relationship work. Something gets activated in me. And instead of staying with that activation so I can really uncover what it's about, I try to reach for her. I try to feel okay through her. All of that is outsourcing. But the shift isn't in what I say, it's in catching the moment, it's catching the pull to soothe and staying with myself instead. It's learning to feel the discomfort instead of acting on the urge, instead of trying to manage and fix a connection, a threat that isn't actually a threat. It's a perceived threat, not an actual threat. What I have experienced is the moment I stop trying to manage the relationship stopped feeling like work. It's just two people having an experience, and my role is to stay with myself inside of it. And so this is why this work is hard, because people hear this and they think, okay, so you just have to stay with yourself. But if you don't have the capacity to do that, you can't. When something gets activated inside of you, it doesn't feel small. It feels urgent. It feels real. It feels like something needs to happen right now. So, of course, the natural response is to reach for the other person. Of course, you want to try to fix it. You're trying to stabilize safety and connection through somebody else so that the relationship feels okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is exactly how our nervous system is wired. It's the way that we have always learned to find safety. But what starts to change everything and what changed everything for me is when you can learn to build the capacity to stay with yourself in those moments, to feel the discomfort without immediately acting on it, to notice the thoughts that are spinning in your head without believing them, to become a witness, to become an observer of your experience, to allow yourself to feel that something is off without trying to fix the connection right away. This isn't something that, like, all of that is capacity. It's building capacity. And it's not something that you cognitively think your way into, it's something that you build. And when that starts to shift, I think something really interesting happens is you stop managing your relationships. You stop turning your relationships into work because you're not constantly trying to manage how they feel. You're not organizing yourself around keeping the connection okay. You're just in it. You're just experiencing it. You're responding to it from yourself instead of reacting from fear. And this is when relationships stop feeling heavy. It's not because nothing ever comes up, it's because you're not outsourcing your internal stability anymore. So when I say that relationships are not actually hard, I don't mean that they're always easy. I mean that what makes them feel hard is actually the things that are happening inside of you and what you choose to do with it. So the relationship isn't the work, the capacity to stay with yourself while the relationship activates you. That is the work. And if you're somebody who recognizes this, if you can see how often you reach for the relationship to feel okay, this is exactly what I built inside of my self-safety lab. It's where you can actually learn how to stay with yourself so you're not constantly turning your relationships into something that you manage. Anyway, that's all of my insights for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you all next time.